bad reputation, and it isn't just talk. If I could only give you everything, you know I haven't got. I couldn't have one conversation if it wasn't for the lies. And still I wanna tell you everything till I close my eyes. Suddenly I'm wrong.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Atheist Experience. We are live. Today is October 26, 2008.
Oh, by the way, one thing you just said, regarding emotions and reactions, I have no doubt that in the near future, in fact, probably in the very near future, neurological science is really going to have its way with most of our notions of belief. But at least in my experience, I don't so much choose my feelings, anger, reaction, and so forth. I choose what I'm going to do about them. I find, emotions to me tend in fact, to be stimulus responses. It's not so much that I think, I heard a joke, now I shall laugh. I laugh automatically and often inappropriately. But it's more along the lines of what you had said in a previous episode about how you don't choose to believe in the morning. You don't get up and say, I'm going to be a skeptic or I'm going to be an atheist. That is your response to the information that you have been able to gather, and your ability to interpret it and process it, and I'm the same way. So I understand, in this sense, I understand the religious impulse that people have, that the search for transcendence and what. I just don't think there's any evidence, as Tracy was saying. I don't think there's any evidence. I don't think there's, I can understand casting the hook into the sea, but when you pull it up, there's nothing there.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's a good point, too. I mean, I'd often made that distinction about you don't make me mad. I allow myself to get mad. You're right, that with certain, and I use that as an objection primarily because I have this visceral objection to the Supreme Court decision that invented the concept of fighting words, that there are some things that you can say to someone that are so egregious that their natural response is to get physical, and that therefore this can be used as justification.
Crime of passion is the same way. Yeah. It's the same argument.
Well, it's heresy revisited. It's just wrapped up in pseudo-secular language.
Yeah, I have huge objections to that, and that's one of the reasons why I have phrased that in the past. But I do think you make a good distinction that how I feel and then how I choose to react based on those feelings are distinct. And one of them is a stimulus response, and one of them is me being in control of my actions and learning to be a better person, learning to react in ways that are more productive for everybody. But
I would agree. I would actually say that this is a challenge to us as humans, and that the thing that distinguishes us, at least until we meet some space friends who show us otherwise, is that we have this self-awareness and self-control. We can, in the whole event, stimulus, response, consequences cycle, we have that circuit breaker, unique at least as far as I know, that says we can stop and look at ourselves from the outside and say, wait a minute, I understand why I might react in such a way, but I'm not going to.
I will say that I think you can train.
I think animals can do that as well.
But I will say that I think you can.
Could you train my cats then?
I don't know about a cat, but a more social animal like a dog, perhaps.
All right, I'll go with that.
Yeah.
Well, I'm saying what I would say is that I think it's possible. You're talking about event stimulus response. And that you may not necessarily have a lot of control of the stimulus. I think it's actually, or the stimulus response action, I guess I should say. I think it's actually possible to train yourself to have different responses to different stimuli.
Correct.
So that things that used to make me mad and then cause a certain reaction, by not reacting in that way, now those things make me less and less mad until they get to a point where those things don't actually make me mad anymore. Maybe they make me sad or frustrated.
Well, yeah, you can retrain that. I agree with George in the sense that you do have sort of like an initial reaction based on how your parents raised you or how you were trained to react to that situation, but you can retrain yourself to say, my initial reaction is now this.
Yeah, well, everything happens in our head. Is the combination of our entire lives.
To a large degree, the military is very good at doing that with people, saying that it makes sense to run away from a bullet, and that might be my initial reaction, but I can actually train you to not even think about it, to just simply react to what your commander tells you.
Also, I would suggest that in a non-mystical, non-supernatural way, that this self-awareness and self-identity, the idea that there is a you that is you, distinct from your thoughts and reactions, that you could be a believer and then one day be an atheist, or I suppose the other way, and yet you're still you, that is what people really are aware of when they talk about their souls, the sense of selfhood, and it's not supernatural, and it doesn't have to be looked at that way. It's just historically most people have.
Yes.
Yeah, to a large degree. I think I read a while back Jung's, what was it, religion, psychology and religion, and that's one of the things that was very strong in the book, is that in his mind the subconscious alone should be enough, and he doesn't mean that, when I say this I have to kind of qualify it, should be enough to convince most people a God exists. Now, he didn't mean that in the sense that the subconscious is proof of God. He meant that it's enough of a mystifying thing to people that it would confuse them into thinking that it must be a God talking to me, because these ideas are arising and I'm not consciously thinking of them.
Yeah.
So,
would you classify the Jungian archetypes along the same thing, that they appear to come from without us, so therefore people mistake them as supernatural?
I think, I would agree with that.
And I think Dennett addresses this quite nicely when he talks about how this idea of the Cartesian theater of being an operator can give you the perception of something like a soul, and really that is illusory and the result of emergent phenomena in the brain and just the way the brain works, at least as far as we can tell. And that there's no justification for thinking that there's something that is me in any sense that persists after I'm dead and decomposed.
So you would agree, I think, I forget who put it this way, but it was perfect. It was that basically mind is what brains do.
Yeah, I think I've
certainly
heard that
it's
before.
one of the things that your brain does, I think,
Yeah, I think I'm pretty okay with that, but that might require some more thought as well.
It's just interesting because your subconscious sort of dictates what you're aware of and what you're not, so that you have things going on like your kidneys function, and your brain is definitely involved in that, and yet you have no awareness of what your kidneys are doing.
Yeah, so
thankfully.
Yeah, the mind is a product of the brain,
It's the
portion of the product.
It's the part that your subconscious says, okay, I'm going to allow you to be aware of this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but then that also sets up the subconscious as like the tinkering, governing thing. It's a difficult subject. George, I want to make sure Tracy gets to the rest of her stuff.
Okay, yeah, I've babbled on for too long as it is.
But thank you for calling in and reading
Congrats
that.
on the video, guys.
Thanks.
And it isn't just talk. If I could only give you everything